Imagine writing stories about death, war, and vanishing, and then becoming one of the greatest real-life mysteries in literary history. That's exactly what happened to Ambrose Bierce, a man whose pen was as sharp as his mind and whose final act became the ultimate unsolved story. He was a Civil War veteran, a biting satirist, and a writer with a deep fascination for death. But in 1913, Bierce vanished without a word. No body was found, no goodbye note. Just one last letter and then nothing. Some say he was executed in Mexico. Others claim he simply walked off into the wilderness to die alone. But the truth, it's never been found. Born on June 24, 1842, in a log cabin in Meigs County, Ohio, Ambrose Bierce was one of 13 children. His early life was modest, shaped by books and an independent spirit. His parents were poor, but well-read, and they passed on their love for language to young Ambrose. Even as a child, he showed an unusual interest in death, dreams, and irony. His imagination was vivid, and he often found beauty in the darkest corners of the human experience. When the Civil War broke out, Bierce enlisted in the Union Army at just 19 years old. He served with distinction and fought in some of the war's bloodiest battles, including Shiloh and Chickamauga. But war didn't just scar his body, it deeply wounded his soul. He saw unimaginable suffering, betrayal, and death. These experiences burned themselves into his memory, shaping the brutal realism of his later writing. In many ways, Bierce never left the battlefield. His mind remained haunted by the ghosts of war. After the war, Bierce turned to journalism, moved west, and eventually made his way to San Francisco, where he became one of the city's most feared and admired columnists. His sharp tongue earned him the nickname Bitter Bierce. He attacked corruption, hypocrisy, and stupidity with fearless wit. He exposed crooked politicians, dishonest businessmen, and even fellow writers. His satirical definitions in the Devil's Dictionary, such as peace in international affairs, a period of cheating between two periods of fighting, showed how dark and razor-sharp his humor could be. He was both loved and hated, but never ignored. While he found success as a journalist, it was his fiction that secured his legacy. Stories like An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge blurred the lines between life and death, fantasy and reality. His tales often ended in shocking twists, reminding readers that fate is rarely kind. He explored dreams, illusions, and the fragile nature of sanity. One recurring theme in his stories was vanishing people disappearing into thin air, lost to time. It was as if he had been rehearsing his own ending all along. By the early 1910s, Bierce was old, tired, and disillusioned with modern life. His marriage had failed, his children were grown, and he had made more enemies than friends. The world was changing, and Bierce no longer felt like he belonged in it. He wanted to escape the noise, the lies, and the fakeness of society. But he didn't want to fade quietly. Bierce had always said he didn't fear death. In fact, he seemed almost obsessed with it. In October 1913, at the age of 71, Bierce left the United States. He traveled south through Texas, into Mexico, right into the middle of the Mexican Revolution. He said he wanted to witness real war one last time. He had seen the Civil War, but now he wanted to see death in a new form, modern and brutal. In his final letters to friends, he made cryptic remarks about going where war is hot, and added chillingly, "Goodbye. If you hear of me being stood up against a Mexican stone wall and shot 2 rags, please know that I think that a pretty good way to depart this life." His last confirmed letter was dated December 26, 1913, from Chihuahua, Mexico. After that, he was never seen or heard from again. No body was found, no witness ever confirmed his death. He had simply vanished. For a man who wrote about illusions, death, the thin line between this world and the next, his disappearance felt hauntingly poetic. Some believe he was captured and executed by revolutionary forces. Others think he died of illness in the desert. There are even wild theories that he faked his death and lived out his final days in hiding. But not a shred of concrete evidence has ever surfaced. Bierce's disappearance turned him from writer into myth. He became the main character in a story with no ending. Generations of historians, researchers, and conspiracy theorists have tried to solve the mystery. But Bierce, the master of irony, left no clues. If anything, he left riddles. The most chilling part, His writings almost predicted his fate. In story after story, characters vanish into forests, deserts, and wars, never to return. In one tale, a man dreams of escape from execution, only to realize his freedom was an illusion. In another, a soldier steps off the battlefield and walks into nothingness. It's as if Bierce saw the curtain call coming and wrote it in advance. The mystery grew over the years. Some claimed he was executed by Pancho Villa's men. Others said he died in a small Mexican village, sick and alone. There were rumors of a mass grave, whispers of a secret diary, and even hoaxes claiming to have found his remains. But all of them faded into speculation. Bierce left behind only a silence deeper than any grave. What makes Bierce's disappearance so powerful is not just the mystery, it's the symbolism. He didn't just vanish physically. He left a philosophical question hanging in the air. Can we ever truly know a person? Can we ever predict how a life will end? In an age of facts, evidence, and closure, Bierce gave us the ultimate anti-ending. He became a ghost in the collective imagination, forever walking through the dusty hills of Mexico, just out of reach. For the literary world, Bierce's disappearance was a loss and a legend. It reminded writers that the most unforgettable stories don't always end on the page. Sometimes the writer becomes the mystery, and that's what Ambrose Bierce did. He wrote his final chapter not in ink, but in silence. Even today, his legacy lives on. Students still read his chilling stories. Writers study his biting style. And mystery lovers still wonder what really happened in Mexico in 1913. Did he die with honor, as he may have hoped? Or did he disappear in despair, broken by a world he could no longer understand? Ambrose Bierce didn't just write about fear, death, and irony. He embodied them. He didn't just create characters who vanished, he became one. And in doing so, he ensured that his name would never fade. Because mystery, after all, is the oldest and strongest emotion in storytelling. As you finish this video, take a moment to imagine him. A gray-haired man, alone in the desert, notebook in hand. Looking out at the rising sun, maybe he knew it was the end. Maybe he welcomed it. Or maybe he was smiling, knowing that even in death he had written one final masterpiece, the story of his own disappearance. So when you hear the name Ambrose Bierce, remember it's not just a name, it's a ghost, a question, a story without an answer. And maybe that's exactly how he wanted it.